Welcome, everybody. We appreciate you guys attending this 30 West IP Update webcast. This is part 2 of our electronic plotting series. Today is March 29, 2022. So if you're watching this later, this information may have possibly changed. We have muted all the microphones, so because it's going to be a pretty large crowd. We still have folks rolling in as we speak. So your microphones are automatically muted. We do ask that you submit questions via the Q&A panel, not using the chat window, because the chat window will get a little bit overwhelming. There's basically just 2 of us here monitoring that. So send it in via the Q&A panel. And then you can also use the upvote feature to bump up your favorite question if somebody has already asked that question for you. Also, there was another question. There was a miscommunication, I should say, about us emailing a copy of this. That video would be way too big. So you can, as with all of our 30 West IP updates, you can go to our YouTube channel. When we're done with this, we'll edit and then post it to the YouTube channel for you guys to review this, and it'll be available to you there free of charge, 365 days a year. So feel free to share that link with your buddies. Mitch?
All right. Thank you, Joe. We appreciate your being part of the webcast. We always appreciate your participation, your questions, your suggestions, and the like. I do want to remind you that this is only made possible by the fact that Joe and I have a day job. We train on international procedures. We do a recurrent and an international procedures initial. And recently we added an e-learning, one of those online, anywhere, anytime type of products for the initial. So we have an e-learning recurrent and an e-learning initial. So our library of e-learning products, which can be, accessed at any time, anywhere, has expanded dramatically. I want to mention that so that we can continue to put food on the table with supper and keep the lights going and things like that. Now, here you see a library of different types of topics. And as a result of expanding the library by more than 200%, if you're a client and you're attending a recurrent, we've had a lot of questions about, hey, can I just get a piece out of the initial for this or that? And that's now possible. You could get something on oceanic ops, something on polar ops, something on plotting and ETP. So we wanted to bring that to your attention, as that is very new. We won't continue to do that. This will be the last time that we address that, but that's important for us to keep our day job going. Now, one of the things that we've done as a result of suggestions from clients and as a result of these sessions is seen the value of the Q&A. At the end of this webcast, there'll be a Q&A session, and they're extremely popular. So what Joe and I have done is, for our clients, for those who train with us, we have added a Friday at high noon Q&A session every week. It's available every week. And what we do is we spend somewhere between 45 minutes and an hour addressing a topic. And this is a bit more expansive than answering an email or a phone call, because it allows us, through the media that you see here, to be able to present courseware. If somebody's got a question that we have addressed in the courseware, a lot of times a graphic is a much better way to explain it. So Joe and I will be doing that continuously going forward. If we don't have anybody register, we won't do it. You are required to email us at team@30westip.com to register in order to be able to do this, because we do want to screen this. This is a service that we offer to clients, and make sure that, we're getting clients in that have been part of our training. Now, one of the final things we do before I turn it over to Ben and Joshua are joining us from ARINCDirect, and we're extremely grateful for that. We're very excited about what they have to say. It's been 18 months since we've talked to them, and a lot's changed in the industry. But we're going to launch a poll, and we'd like to get a little feedback from you on what you're doing if you operate oceanic. So if you're attending and you don't operate an aircraft oceanic, then please don't answer this. But if you are, then would you give us some insight into what you do? Do you plot with paper? Do you plot with an EFB? Are you using one of the services that we're talking about in this series? And in this series, we last week hosted and had Don from PlotNG talk about his product and the changes that are going through and what he sees in the industry. ARINC is here, of course, this time. And at the end of April, beginning of May, we have the hope that we will be able to have Sean Scott with Scott Plot to show his product. He is interested. He's agreed to do it. We're all trying to work out a time that would make that happen. So we're getting some very good feedback on the poll. And as the poll settles down, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the results of the poll, because so many things that we do during these webcasts are meant to be collaborative. Joe and I do these webcasts because things change. There's new topics. We observe what's going on. We talk about what we understand about what's going on. And then we try to get really smart people to help us understand it. And this poll is part of that. So I'm going to share the results of the poll. And for the purposes of the folks that might be watching this later in a recording, I'll read the results. We see that 43% are using paper, 13% are plotting manually on an electronic flight bag, 4% are using PlotNG, and 62% are using ARINCDirect, and 2% are using Scott Plot. Now, that's obviously going to be distorted by our attendees. Many of the attendees here are doing this because they are part of the ARINCDirect product. That doesn't vary dramatically from the poll that we did last time with PlotNG. So we do see that ARINCDirect seems to have a large part of the market. Now, having said that, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn this over to Ben and Joshua, and they're going to talk about what they see in the industry, where they are in the industry, what's changed in the last 18 months since we last talked to them. And at the completion of their presentation, they have a poll they'd like to launch, and then we'll go into a Q&A session. So Joshua, Ben, thank you for showing up, and I'll close the camera and turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you, Mitch. Hope everybody can hear me. This is Ben with ARINCDirect, and my colleague Josh is also one of our panelists today. I'll be probably doing most of the talking. Thank you for your interest in this topic, and we're excited to show you what we've been doing for the last 18 months. A lot of you, if you are ARINCDirect customers, and if you have ever called into our 24/7 helpline with an iPad related question, and if one of the flight coordinators needed to phone a friend, likely you wound up either talking to me on the phone or talking via email. So I'm sure some of the participants on here, we've chatted in the past. So again, thank you for taking the time out to join us today. I'm going to start with a PowerPoint real quick. Okay, there's some screen, and let's go to Drive, and let's get this going. Okay, so this will be quick and painless. Just want to put my contact information up there real quick. Again, I'm the product manager for mobile applications at ARINCDirect. My email, or if you use that other email, that goes to the entire iPad development team. I'll put that up there at the end as well. Quick history, the app, the ARINCDirect iPad app, designed for pilots to use while they're operating the airplane. That's the focus of all the tools that we put into our application. Just had its 10th birthday not too long ago. Plotting chart was first introduced in 2019, end of 2019. That's when we did our last webinar with Mitch and Joe. At that time, only filed flight plans with ARINCDirect were eligible to use the plotting chart feature. I.e., third-party flight plans did not have access to the plotting chart feature. In roughly mid 2020, we removed those restrictions. So no longer has to be a file flight plan, no longer has to be an ARINCDirect flight plan. It can be a third-party flight plan, and we'll talk about that in a lot more detail as I keep going here. First quarter of 2021, we released a major release, which we called Plotting Chart Phase 2. So we had about a little over a year to collect feedback from you guys after our initial launch of it. And we put out a large number of user-facing enhancements to the feature, including a edit route capability that we call Direct 2. Also, we did a redesign of the position report card carousel down at the bottom, in that we added a origin and a destination position report card. Those two are special cards in the tool, and they allow you to capture a lot of data that you normally would have been hand annotating on your flight plan. Late last year, 2021, we sent out release 6.2.5, which was ETP and ETOPS manual entry. And that is a feature that was important for customers who were using third-party flight plans. There's a video that I've got listed there. And something that we'll talk about as well is, and I want to keep repeating this, is that there's on the website, there's a big button up at the top, help and training.
Hey, Ben, pardon the interruption. This is Joe. Would you mind killing your camera, because we have Mitch's picture kind of blocking your screen a little bit, and I think that'll get rid of his picture. Your video off, and then redo your presentation.
Okay. My video is now off.
Okay. I appreciate it. I guess we're going to be looking at that. That's fine. Thanks.
It shouldn't block. Well, is it just down in the bottom right-hand corner?
Yeah, it's a little personal thing. Now it's back up.
Yeah. Okay. I don't see a quick way to get rid of it.
Okay. No worries. Pardon the interruption.
Much, hopefully. Yeah, I'll keep hammering this home though. But we have a training department at ARINCDirect that is included with your subscription. You guys can call and ask for the training department at any time. They will set up something custom for your flight department. But another thing they do is they put together a lot of quick little videos that are on the website under the help and training button. And there's a number of them that are specific to the iPad app. So I'll take you there a little bit later on, but they did a nice video on release 6.2.5, which shows you how to use the ETP ETOPS manual entry function that we built in that release. So one thing I've learned over the last couple of years since this feature came out is that we consistently get asked about three areas very consistently. And I'll spend a couple of minutes here talking about each one of those. First off, this is a very hot topic, is position data. What are the potential places where I can, or what are the ways I can get position data into the app and specifically into Plotting Chart? And one thing I want to say is that it's not absolutely required. There are mechanisms for you to hand enter lat longs for your 10-minute checks, but it makes it a heck of a lot nicer if you have position data that's getting fed into the app. Right now, the requirement is still that you use an external GPS device capable of connecting to your iPad's Apple location services via Bluetooth. And we also recommend that you get a device that is capable of connecting to multiple iPads at one time, so you can feed left seat and right seat. Couple of the most common ones that a lot of our customers have had good results with: Bad Elf, Dual, Garmin Glow, something along those lines. They're relatively inexpensive compared to the airplanes you're flying. They as one tip that we like to pass on is use like a little suction cup and hang it from the side window, which is closest to the equator. That's going to yield the best results that we've found over and over again. So going over to Europe, put it next to the right seat, coming back and put it next to the left seat. So we do not yet have support for Wi-Fi based routers, ADSB receivers like SDR, Sentry, or Stratus. Those are on our roadmap. And within the last year, we've become keenly aware that they need to climb the ladder on our roadmap. And we're going to have a poll later on this topic that's specific to which ones you guys are interested in us supporting first. Each one is its own separate development effort, so we want to prioritize accordingly. Next question we get asked about a lot is third-party plans. Since the ITS business was shuttered, a lot of you are now using UV, Jepson, you name it, ITPS, like Pro International, PPS. It's a long list. We integrate with a lot of third-party flight plan providers. So yes, Plotting Chart does work with third-party plans. The current transmission of the third-party plan to us via Type B message is not the complete plan. It's not the full OFP. So we do not get enough segment time or segment fuel data to be able to to be able to pre-populate the ETA or the EFR fields in the position report cards. Part of Plotting Chart Phase 2, part of the development of that was that we separated that field. So it used to be one field for ETA, and then when you entered a value, it became your ATA. We separated those two fields, and now you're able to enter your own ETAs or EFRs if you happen to be using a third-party plan or they're not populated for some other reason. So that's one of the things you want to be aware of. Two is, this is pretty widely known, is that we don't get enough information about ETPs or ETOPs from the third-party providers to be able to make those functions work within the plotting chart. But as I mentioned earlier, with release 6.2.5, we've given you the ability to hand enter just a couple of pieces of information from your OFP from the third-party provider: lat long, return airport, forward airport, and scenario name. You enter those pieces of data, and then the ETP portion of the plotting chart now works. And again, there's a video link there, and that link is available under help and training on the website to show you how to do that. It's really pretty easy. The theory is that most people are only going to hand enter their most fuel critical ETP scenarios, usually your depressurized scenarios, and maybe your PNR, PSR. Most people have indicated that they're not going to enter 10 or 12 scenarios. You just need to you need to have the arrows for your most fuel critical ones. So we think, all right, you're going to spend a couple of minutes entering a little bit of data for, 2 or 3 scenarios. And then, that part of the app is going to work, or that part of the plotting chart is going to work, and you're on your way. When we first released plotting chart back in December 2019, in fact, and you were using an ARINCDirect plan that had 10 or so different scenarios on it, and we showed all of those arrows on the plotting chart, one of the first feedbacks we got loud and clear from a lot of you was, hey, can you give us a way to filter those out so that we don't see all of those arrows? We only want to see the most fuel critical ones. So we built that in there as well. But that's kind of the premise behind the ETP ETOPS interface that we built in 6.2.5. One other thing of note with third-party plans is right now you only see the route of flight. That's okay. The plotting chart will still work if all you see is the route of flight in the flight plan portion of the app. But as many of you probably have figured out, and we've been trying to advertise, there is a way for your third-party provider to email the full flight plan to the cruise, and then it's pretty easy to import that full flight plan into the app so that you do have your full OFP inside our app while you're using plotting chart. And at this point, I'm going to break out of here and do a quick demo. So imagine this is a third-party plan. Going over to Talent. If it's a third-party plan, you're really only going to see this route of flight portion, nothing below it, here in the flight plan portion of the app. But you go to your third-party provider and you say, look, can you email the full OFP as a PDF to our crews so that they can access it on their iPads? That's really pretty standard practice, is what we found from third-party providers, is that's a pretty typical request, and so they're happy to do it. So let's imagine that let's see, where's my Gmail? Okay, so here, let's imagine that this is a flight plan that was sent to me from my third-party provider. And here's the flight plan right there. And scroll down. Yeah, you've got all of your data, your nav log and all of that, your ETPs and everything down here at the bottom, including like the lat long and so forth. Okay, so great. I've accessed it via the native email client. So I've got it was sent to my Gmail account. So I accessed it via the Gmail app on my iPad app. Then I go to the open in button, which is the share button, the box with the up arrow up in the top right-hand corner. You tap that, and then you say open in. There we are, ARINCDirect. And voila. Now and this is a very recent change, that used to open as a user document, but now it opens, as long as I have the flight plan selected, it's going to open as a leg document. So you no longer have to import it as a user document and then move it to a leg document. It just automatically goes in as a leg document. So that's in place now. So there's my package with my full flight plan. It doesn't show up in the flight plan portion of the app. It's in the documents portion of the app. But you're here and you have your annotation tools up at the top. You can still mark this up. And then there's the floppy disk icon up in the top right. And if you hit that, that's going to archive it back to our website, to the documents section of our website, where it's available for 6 months. I'm not sure, there might be some questions on this, but every time a third-party flight plan is received by our system, or anytime you compute a flight plan in our system, we generate a folder for that flight automatically. And that folder exists in the documents tab of our website. And so when you're in the iPad app and you hit that floppy disk icon on any document that you've got open, it's going to archive that flight plan back to our website, into that folder that was created for your leg. And that folder remains available for 6 months, which meets most companies' record keeping requirements. So let's see, back to my presentation. So now the third thing that we get asked about a lot is the future. So we've done a lot with plotting chart already, but really in my mind, it's in its infancy right now. And in a year, it might not even, the button might not even say plotting chart. It might say eNavlog, or it might say iFipple. iFipple is what we call internally interactive flight plan. And it's where we want to take the plotting chart feature. Right now, plotting chart is optimized for oceanic operations. We want it to become a tool, while retaining the things that make it nice for oceanic operations. We want to develop tools that allow it to be usable on any domestic flight, any European flight, any CONUS flight, any flight. We want it to be what you use all the time. That represents our development effort, or in our roadmap for the next couple of years at least, turning plotting chart into iFipple or eNavlog. There's also the concept of it being, initially, it's probably going to be a disconnected solution, where what we're going to build is, we have to build tools like a more robust edit route capability, so that you can handle any reroute that you might get in the Northeast corridor. And we also have to build the ability to skip over waypoints, so that you don't have to do a confirmed position report every single waypoint. There's a number of things that we got to do, but we also have to build an electronic version of your old OFP. And these are big ticket items, and they're going to take a lot of development. But that eNavlog will have boxes in it where you're going to put in your actual data, your wins, your actual crossing times, your actual fuel remainings, and you're going to either be in a disconnected mode where the pilot are entering those values for crossing times and fuel remaining, or you're going to be in a connected mode where there's a connection from the iPad to the 429 bus, and that data is going to flow automatically from the FMS right into those boxes. So that's the future state. That's where we want to go. My personal goal is to eliminate the need for the annotations that you're doing on your flight plans. That, to me, is something that's that we can do a much better job of now, with the technology available to us. So I'd like us to do away with what I consider a relic, and a problematic one at that, and give you something much more robust and a lot slicker, to be honest. One thing I do want to mention while I have everybody here, let's not forget to close out. We missed on our initial rollout of this. We thought that closeout was going to be pretty much what everybody knew to hit. And we need to do a better job of making it obvious that closeout hasn't been hit yet. I need to hit it, so that, the whole point of plotting chart is to save those documents, the master document and the high-res image that are generated by the plotting chart feature. If you don't hit closeout right now, those documents are lost. So you don't want to lose all your data. You got to hit closeout when you're done. You finish your coast in, you get on the ground, you put your on and in times in, so that we can calculate your flight time, your block fuel, and then you hit closeout. And you want to do that because you want that master document and that high-res image to be saved back to our website into that leg folder that was created automatically for your flight. So just wanted to put a plug in for that while I have everybody's attention. Contacts and questions. I'm going to bail out of this presentation now and go to the app. Okay. And I'm going to switch to a different flight plan. Let's go with this one. I'm going to do a little cleanup here as well. I always turn off the METARS layer just because it's when I'm presenting this, it gets distracting for me. But so here we are, and I wanted to just bring up the plotting chart and talk about a few of the changes that we that we've implemented. First time you're in here, we pop up a tutorial for you if you've never used it before. There's other help on how to use this if you've never used it before. We've got a button over here that talks about if you're sharing data between the pilot and the co-pilot. This comes up quite a bit. Hey, I tap on the paperclip icon and I don't see any available peers and they don't see me. So the reason for that is actually listed here in the pop-up here. The local network setting for our app is probably disabled. If nobody sees you as an available peer or you don't see anybody else as available peer, we need to go and toggle on a setting in iPad settings in order to make that work, so that you can share data back and forth between two devices. I'll take us there really quick. I'm going to go to get out of our app, go into the settings, and then you go to privacy. And then over here, there's local network. And if ARINCDirect is toggled off, then you just got to toggle it back on, and then you're good to go. If you're not able to see available peers, it's because that privacy local network ARINCDirect is off. So we're addressing that. We're going to be, I guess, driving you there when I don't have, there's no other iPads near me. That's why I don't have any available peers or authorized peers in my list. But if you do have another device next to you and you don't see them, that's almost 100% of the time the problem. And what we're going to do is we're going to put better information in here to drive you to fix it on your own, because it's really an easy fix, and we're just not giving you enough information here right now as far as what I need to do to solve it. But that'll be coming out shortly, where we're going to have a pop-up that says, hey, you need to turn on local network, and give you kind of a redirect to go there and fix it yourself. So let's see. There were so many changes in phase 2, and that's been out for over a year, that I don't really, I don't know if it's worthwhile to spend a lot of time going through exactly what's in 6.2. But what I'll say is, the changes that are going to occur in order to turn plotting chart into something that can be used on any flight, or a lot of them are going to be here in waypoint check, where we're going to give you the ability to skip over waypoints, or have multiple oceanic sections, or give an indication that you want us to prompt you for an hourly RVSM check. A lot of really good ideas keep coming in from you guys, and we really appreciate it, because it makes it fall off a log easy for us to know what we got to work on next. That a lot of the changes are going to be here in waypoint check. Position report, like the origin position report card, that's going to grow. I want to put a box in here that could potentially capture anything that you might annotate on your flight plan. I want to wean people off needing to annotate on the flight plan by giving you a place here to capture that information. We put in a lot of stuff in here that we had a bug with the crew section where crew data was getting lost. We fixed that. We've got the flight plan time, distance, fuel required check here. Checklist data is going to grow. There's a lot of, I think we're missing on the closeout checklist, we're missing the master clock. We got to add that. But we keep a running list of all the things that you guys are saying, hey, we're missing this or we're missing that, and it's not falling on deaf ears. We genuinely want to make annotating on the flight plan a thing of the past by giving you an alternative method here that is appealing enough that you guys want to use this rather than using the old style hand annotations. Let's see here. So the closeout button, we added a triangle there because this flight has not been closed out yet. So I added a yellow triangle to the closeout button. I don't know if that's enough. I'm hoping it is, but we want to make it stand out that, hey, I haven't hit closeout yet. Once you hit closeout and you save it at least once, that yellow triangle over the closeout button will go away. You can close out multiple times. We run into this all the time. Hey, I forgot to enter some data on my 50 West waypoint. What do I do? Well, I already closed out though. So just go back in. As long as the flight is not more than 7 days old, you can go back into the app. The flight itself may have fallen off the app. Flights start to fall off the app generally about 12 hours after ETA. But if you go up to the refresh icon up in the top right-hand corner and you do new and past legs, that past legs is going to reload back onto the iPad anything that's up to 7 days old. So you've been on the ground for a couple of days. Oh, I forgot to enter something here. Or my chief pilot said, you missed some data here. Go back, you hit new and past legs, you reload that flight plan, you enter the data that was missing, and then you hit close out again, and it's going to save a new copy of that master document and a new copy of the high-res image. All is not lost if in that scenario. But if it goes beyond 7 days, then there's no way to reload that flight plan back onto the app at this point. So keep that week in mind. I just did a crossing a couple of days ago. If it starts to get more than 7 days old, you're not going to be able to access it anymore on the iPad app. So just something to keep in mind. Let's see. Like I said, the edit route function, we've added a few features to that, but it's not robust enough yet for complex reroutings that you'll see in CFMU Aerospace or the Northeast Corridor. So that's something we need to implement as we take this feature forward, as well as one of the focuses. I don't know if you've all heard of it, but it's a spec called ARINC 633. And some of our it's a 633, think of it as a mechanism to send flight plan data back and forth between different entities that have an interest in that flight data. In our context, it's a more robust way for a third-party provider to send a flight plan to us. But it requires work on the third-party providers and on our side. And so it's a very long pole in the tent, and we have a lot of third-party providers. But what we want to do is work on implementing 633 so that the ETP data is transmittable to us, so that you don't need to hand enter ETP data when you're using a third-party provider. Or although the entire OFP is sent to us, so that you don't have to do the open-in ARINCDirect. It just naturally comes in its whole state into the flight plan portion of the app. That's another I guess item on our roadmap, but it's we have a lot of major ticket items in our roadmap, and we're not intimidated by them, but we working with 12 to 15 different third-party providers in order to implement a 633 transmission protocol to get the plans into us is not something that I'm going to be able to promise it's going to be coming out in a quarter or two. It's a very large task, but we recognize that it's where we need to get. So let's see, Mitch and Joe. At this point, I was wondering maybe it would be a good time to put up that second poll.
All right, I'll launch that for you.
Yeah. Do I need to stop presenting?
Nope, it's launched. And
Okay.
so the question is, which type of Wi-Fi router or /ADSB receiver do you use? So the poll is open, and we've got some questions rolling or answers rolling in now. We'll leave this open for a little while and give everybody a chance to give us their input on this. I'm not sure how to do a horse race announcer voice, but I could possibly do that to entertain us. The ARINCDirect router is way ahead.
Yeah.
And again, I don't know what a furlong is, how far that would be. We're getting a pretty steady roll in. Now we're starting to slow down a bit. I will leave this open just for a few more seconds because it seems like the answers are getting stagnated.
The kernels are slowing down.
There we go. That's right. And Dave, thanks. 1/8 of a mile is a furlong. Very good. Okay, I think we've almost, yeah, there was one more there. So we're pretty much at a stagnant point here. So I'm going to go ahead and close this out, and then we will share the results.
All right, great. Hey, nothing beats a definitive answer.
Yeah,
There we go.
that's revealing. Thank you all for helping with that poll.
And for the recording purposes, the answers, 49% chose ARINCDirect router, followed by 16% not sure. And then we had 12% with Stratus, 10% other, 7% none, and 6% Sentry out of 280 votes. All right, I will stop the share.
Okay.
And there you go. So Ben, yeah,
Hey, I
go
have
back on your, go ahead.
I'd like to show everybody. So if you go up to the user icon up in the top top left-hand corner, and you go to the ARINCDirect website, we've got a nice link there. It's going to log you right in. That help and training button up here in the top row, help and training, tap on that. Then you look down here, there's some video tours, featured videos, and iPad app quick tip videos. I would encourage everybody, none of them are super long. There's one in there for the iPad application version 6.2. That was iPad app. That was phase 2 of the iPad. That was what we were calling plotting chart phase 2. There's other ones in there for expediting your downloads, for finding your PDC, copying and pasting, a whole bunch of nice little quick tip videos there that the training team has put together. If you're ever bored and you're looking for a little bit of education and you've already done the Wordle for today, go check those out. And I'm almost sure that everybody has something they could learn from some of those videos. So that's my last plug for the videos that the training team does. And I'm going to stop my broadcast. And I understand we have some questions. And if Mitch, I don't know if you want to kind of moderate that or.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'll start reading them off, and then we'll have everybody chime in, Joshua, Ben, whoever wants to answer. But I'll start off at the top of the list, just go with the first ones in. And Robert was asking basically a couple of questions. When is plotting required is the essence of his question, but he's asking, is it required in the Waters region? And essentially on that, Robert, if you're in the offshore region of waters where you still have radar and VHF and all that, it's not required. But when you enter an oceanic region, that's where the FAA expects that you will do plotting. The FAA's updating 9170 Bravo, and in 9170 Charlie, they're actually including some new language to help clarify it. It wasn't as clear as we'd hoped, but they're at least telling us in 70 Charlie when it comes out that if you are switched over to an oceanic controller, then you consider yourself to be oceanic and it's time to start plotting. So hopefully that answered those two. And then the next would be Martin. Martin had a couple, and let's see, someone else wrote, a question, Martin to Martin, actually. So Martin Cooper, your first question was, the position data is not certified if you use Bad Elf, et cetera, et cetera. And then Martin Murat followed with, doesn't work with Bad Elf, ? So Mitch, do you have an answer for us on that?
Yeah, my experience is, and I was texting back and forth with Joe, Bad Elf works great. Dual puck works great. And it does work in our experience. And this is just anecdotally, it does work better than the GPS that's internal to the iPad itself. You do get a higher quality signal when you do use a puck. And I would be curious if we could get some audience response to that. If that is incorrect, if what I'm suggesting is not correct, please go ahead and highlight that. But you do get benefits by having a puck beyond just what would be used with the onboard system.
Now that we do have later a few more to this point, and Mitch doesn't mean to say that the Bad Elf or the GPS puck substitutes the official onboard position data that we're supposed to cross-check on. It's for secondary backup, double check type purposes.
And Joe, I can show a little bit about that right now if this is a good time.
Very good. And Lauren, by the way, says Bad Elf has worked very well in her experience.
Okay. All right. Because what I'd like to do is go ahead, and I do have my presentation screen showing.
I see
right
electronic
now,
plotting. Yes.
Okay. Then what I'd like to do is go ahead. Last time that we did this presentation, we used some slides, and some of the things that we wanted to highlight as best practices are that you don't use manual drawing tools. We did see a large group of folks say that they do use manual drawing tools on an EFB. That's not against some sort of regulation. But when we talk about electronic plotting, we're talking about something like ARINC or PlotNG, where they put the course down and they actually put the ETPs on critical points. Locations need to be inserted using precise lat longs. That didn't come from a suggestion in an inner circle. That came from the FAA. When something needs to be annotated, there should be a lat long that would indicate that position. And of course, there's a host of different ways to doing that. And then finally, to Martin's point, you need to validate with a certified source for lat long when you're doing the G&E checks. This could change, but this is consistent with what we're hearing from the folks that we're talking to at the FAA. There are a lot of people at the FAA. And it states it quite clearly in AC 9170 Bravo. You should plot your position using coordinates from the non-steering long-range nav system, which would be the right FMS. And what we see here is an example of an MCDU with a present position sensor. And, you could take a snapshot of that with your smartphone and capture that point and then plot that on there. And this is still the intent. And this is still in the advisory circular. There isn't much doubt about the intent right now. It could change, and 9170 Bravo will become 9170 Charlie very soon. But I don't think that is part of the change. And all I want to add is I'm a huge believer in pucks. I love using a GPS puck. This doesn't say you can't use a GPS puck. It doesn't say you can't plot on the iPad with the GPS puck. It just says that this should be validated with the offside number 2 long range nav system. Some of the routers we understand. Now, I don't have personal knowledge of this, but we've been told that some of the routers actually broadcast the position to the iPad from the ARINC 429 bus on the number 2 FMS. That would be something you'd have to know about your particular application. Joe, that's just my effort to address specifically the point that Martin made, which was a very valid point.
Absolutely. And that also, I think, addresses Scott, your question. And then Kelly, thank you for the comment to Scott. His question was, if your iPad has cell service, will this work as a GPS device? It says his seems to give him position data. And again, that is a tertiary way to get your position, but it's not the official, what the FAA is looking for as far as you to compare for your G&E checks. But it is a good way for backing up to make sure, that, hey, all of these things agree with each other. So if your cell service, if you have a cell service iPad, it has GPS chips in it, so it should be able to see it, provided you get it close enough to the windows. All right, I will close those out. Aria, thank you for the comment, Aria. Answering to, there were a few questions before. The YouTube video, our YouTube channel will have these videos recorded. So yes, I will put that out there, and we will have this posted hopefully by the end of the day for this one. Kurt asks, or he makes a statement, I think, if I recall, only 2 ETP pairs show on the plotting chart. I like to use 3. In other words, and then he gives examples, CYQX EINN, CYQX BIKF, or BIKF EINN.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah, I was going to say, he also says, 10 is a lot. 3 pair is very reasonable, relatively standard from my own experience. Please go ahead, Ben. My apologies.
No. So if we're talking about an ARINCDirect calculated flight plan that includes ETPs, you can include ETPs for the coast out to the coast in, the gander to Shannon, as there's a checkbox in our flight planning page that allows you to also, do one from gander to Kef to Shannon, but also do one from coast out to coast in. So if you calculate the flight plan using that checkbox, then we're going to show you on the plotting chart arrows for all 3, assuming or all 3 city ETP city pairs, assuming we're talking about an ARINCDirect natively calculated flight plan. I can't answer for what a third party might do when they calculate an ETP or a flight plan that includes ETPs, whether they include that coast out to coast in calculation or not.
And Kurt follows up. He says, I do that, but the 3rd does not seem to plot. Is this a bug that's been fixed?
Oh, does it calculate? Maybe if it calculates, maybe the bug is in the flight planning. If it does sound like maybe Joe, that Kurt is identifying a bug that I'm not aware of.
Well, would any other person who's monitoring this have an experience with that? Does anybody get all 3 of those ETPs in the normal operation on an ARINC flight plan?
It's a selection you have to make, but it sounds like I'm going to need to validate this. I'm no longer on the flight planning team from the website, so it might be that is not functional right now, that checkbox. I'm going to have to verify that, but if it calculates, our the plotting chart should draw arrows for it, so I'm going to have to look into that.
We're getting feedback that that there are clients who do get the 3rd ETP.
Yes, we've had a couple respond saying, yes, we do get the 3rd. Ed, thank you. I'm pretty sure I've seen it. So a couple of folks are responding to that.
I'll do some verification side too. Yep.
Okay, very good. I'm going to go with the upvotes. I see a few questions have been upvoted. So here's one with 3. Brian asks, can you speak to getting an amended oceanic clearance and what the procedure is to handle this in the plotting app that checks all the regulatory boxes?
Yes. So you'll notice when you go through the waypoint crosscheck and you define your coast out to your coast in waypoint. And you also have the ability to select what your cruise mode and your flight level are. And that will be populated in the oceanic clearance portion of the plotting chart feature as the original oceanic clearance. Now there's an ACK button in there. And that is not a ATC acknowledgement. It's just acknowledging that when I get my oceanic clearance, that what we have pre-populated for you in the original oceanic clearance portion, the OOC, is accurate according to what you got from Gander or Shanwick on the way back. And so you hit that ACK, and then anything after that, if you go to edit, you're a couple of waypoints in and you get a reroute. The steps are, go to edit route and redraw your route. You can drag and drop, you can delete waypoints, you can go direct to a new waypoint, you can insert waypoints, do all that, edit your route, and then go back to oceanic clearance, and you're going to see the amended oceanic clearance is populated now with that new route that you just edited. So at that point, you've got an original oceanic clearance, and then we detect that since you have acted already and then made a subsequent edit to that act route, we make an assumption that is now your amended oceanic clearance.
Ben, I've had a few folks chime in here. Is it possible that you can show them this? Display this on your iPad to demonstrate?
Sure. So sharing my screen.
And I'd like to make a note while you're sharing your screen. And in fact, I'll start it as a question. This doesn't recompute your ETPs with new fuel values, does it?
No. Okay. This does not have a connection to our flight planning servers. So when you redraw the route, it does not recalculate the flight plan. It's just a redraw of the route.
Okay, and I'll just say that for the record, the last session we talked to PlotNG, they have the same ability to change the route and to accurately depict the route with the MAC course and distance. Sean at Scott Plot has the same ability, but in talking to Sean and Don, and here with our conversation with Ben, after you've done this, there is no change to the ETPs. If it is significant, it could affect the amount of fuel you have remaining with your new route, and you would not know that if you didn't have new ETPs calculated. So give it a reasonableness check. If it's just a couple of waypoints and just a couple of degrees, it would be one thing. But if you have a significantly different route and a significantly perhaps different altitude, then you would want to get additional information about how that affects fuel.
Yeah, and I before we talk about the amended oceanic clearance, just to finish up on that, a little tangent there. I've had conversations with a handful of people that are probably on this phone call about there's a formula out there where you can recalculate what your ETPs are supposed to be now that I have a different route. And we've been looking at the potential for somehow implementing that into the feature. I don't know how feasible it is, but you're right. I think I don't want to speak for PlotNG, but I think they have a tool where you can extend the arrow lines, to bisect your new route or something like that. I'm not sure what Scott does in their tool, but we recognize that there's a gap there, especially because we don't have the ability to go recompute the plan, because not everybody operates in a connected to the internet paradigm.
So, yeah, it's consistent across the different vendors. PlotNG does allow you to extend certain lines and identify where that ETP would be. That does correctly identify where the new ETP would be. It does not tell you what the fuel would be. Sean has a way of entering information, including the winds and other factors that can give you additional information that's extremely accurate, but once again, doesn't affect the fuel. So none of the solutions currently affect the fuel. Rerunning a flight plan, if it's a significant change, rerunning a flight plan and getting new ETPs would give you that information. I will just say from personal experience, I've seen a couple instances where people had significant roots or altitude changes and ended up with a wet footprint and weren't aware of it until after the flight. So it's key, we're keen on that. We have the formula and we teach the formula in initial training for how to recompute ETPs. And I say over and over again during the training, this is really not the solution. You're going to find the new ETP and it isn't going to tell you anything about gas, and gas is where it's at. You know, that's what we want to make sure we've got sufficient fuel, and I'll leave it.
Well, no, that's very helpful, that, you know, even if we went through the rigmarole of implementing that formula, that it still leaves a potential for a wet footprint. Right. The real answer is we got to get to a point where we can recompute the flight plan. So, which is hard if you don't have an internet connection. And which is part of the reason why I've got our live ETP feature up here. You know, there's plan ETP and there's live ETP, right?
Now we're not seeing your screen, so if you want to take the screen and kind of walk through it on the iPad, that'd be great.
Oh, I thought I had shared. Let's see here. Share content, screen, start broadcast. Okay. Sorry about that. Yes. So, you know, you've got plan ETP over here, and over on the left, you've got live. So part of the theory is what we knew about this. And so they're like, well, let's give them yet another tool, this live ETP feature, which is going to, you know, constantly be updating how far you are. And I know that's not fuel, but distance helps. You know, how far am I from each one of my ETPs? And maybe I want to add another one, BG, BW, or something like that, just to be safe. And we're going to show you what's the current METAR at these places. So you know, if you divert there and it's pink, you know, it's low IFR, maybe I want to go somewhere else. You know, it's another tool in your toolbox to deal with ETPs, while we recognize that there is this this hole when a rerouting. So. Let's go to the oceanic clearance question. Okay, so I'm going to kind of go fast forward to the point where you get to original oceanic clearance. Okay, so you're on the ground, you do your waypoint cross check, you're doing your device to glass check for all your oceanic points. Okay, there are my ovals. I get to my, I'm not going to fill out much here in the origin position report. I'm just going to say, okay, yeah, my altimeter 1 is, I don't know. Oops. All right, so we get to our coast out point, or we're about to hit our coast out point, 2 depth. When we go to oceanic clearance. And so the original oceanic clearance here, Mach 80, 450, 2 depth, and then all your points over to your coast in, Baroud. And then there's that ACK button up in the top right. Okay, yeah, so you get your oceanic clearance and everything looks good according to what you did at waypoint crosscheck. You say, okay, ACK. And now you notice that the original oceanic clearance was copied down to your amended oceanic clearance. But let's say you are chugging along and you get to, boy, this is, there we go. Okay. You get to 10 West and they give you a new coast in. Is that a fair scenario? Or they say go direct to Bakla instead of going over your coast in. Let's, you know, say that that's the reroute that you're given. So I'm going to remove my my coast in point. Actually, there's several ways you do this. Say Bakla, they say go direct to Bakla from 10 West. I don't know if that's realistic or not, but you can just say, you can do this a number of different ways. You can remove points, or you can go direct to Bakla from, no, sorry. Let's go from direct from 6010 West to Bakla. There we go. So that's my reroute. So I hit done. It's going to drive me back here to confirm that my new coast in is 6210 north, because I took my bar route out of the equation. So this is, you don't really have any action here. It's just showing you, okay, I removed bar route from my route of flight. All right, it's no longer my coast in. So now I go back to oceanic clearance, and you can see the amended oceanic clearance down there stops at 6210 north. And that is going to show up on the master document as my amended oceanic. I've got my file route, my original oceanic clearance, I've got my amended oceanic clearance. The difference between the original oceanic clearance and the amended oceanic clearance is the removal of bar route. So the process is get your reroute, go to edit route and adjust it as needed, and then go back to oceanic clearance and verify that the amended oceanic clearance matches whatever type of reroute you were given.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Now, next one that was the most voted up is the question from Jeff. Can I create a flight plan in ARINC without filing it that matches my third-party provider and use it in the app, and then in capital letters, and save completed master logs in docs?
Yes, you can. The only caution is, say third-party provider has to amend the route at the last minute. You got to make sure that your ARINCDirect flight plan matches that route. You don't have to file the flight plan in ARINCDirect or anything. You can compute an ARINCDirect plan that has the same ETPs as your third-party plan, the same route as your third-party plan, and plot using that ARINCDirect plan, and you're going to get a more robust flying chart experience. So yes, that once you hit closeout, it's going to save back to our website documents page, into the leg folder that was automatically created when you created that ARINCDirect flight plan.
Ben, do you think a lot of people are doing that?
Yes, because I get a lot of flight coordinators are asking me, because a lot of people do it themselves. A lot of people ask flight coordinators to do it, which is fine. And so they've asked me, they were unsure of, why have we seen an uptick in this?
Okay.
And I tell them why, and so yeah, I get a sense that a lot of people are doing it that way.
And you kind of answered this question, I think. It says, Ted asks, is it fair to consider the closeout button to be a save button? Absolutely.
We just used the word closeout because we thought that's what kind of the industry was, the vernacular that they were used to. But yeah, it's the master document you can view at any time during your flight. What's my current progress on my master document? I'm at 30 West. I see all the data that I've entered up to 30 West, but it doesn't, until you hit closeout, it doesn't finalize that document and save it back to the website. So yeah, that's why closeout is important, to finalize your master document and save it for record keeping requirements.
Okay. Thank you. I think you may have already answered this one indirectly. John asked, can we replan a third-party flight plan in ARINC to generate segment ETAs, EFRs?
You cannot replan a third-party flight plan that was calculated at UV in ARINCDirect system. And by the way, thank you, John Kane. Shout out to him. I'm going to embarrass him a little bit. John Kane was super important to us when we were first rolled out this feature. He helped us out a lot. His experience was invaluable. But no, the third-party plans cannot be that were computed in a third-party system cannot be recomputed in an ARINCDirect system. I don't know if he was asking, can you replicate? I don't know if it was saying replan, or if he was saying replicate, then yeah, you can replicate a third-party plan in ARINCDirect. And that was the previous question about, mimicking a third-party plan with an ARINCDirect plan and using that instead. And yes, that is possible and being used quite frequently.
Very good. Someone is asking about training. You had mentioned your training was available on videos. He's asking, is there a separate training for using third-party flight plans with ARINCDirect?
I have a little document that I send out to people that I can make available. I don't know, or if that user wants to get in touch with me, or if I get his email address or something like that, I could send it to them. It's just a 3-page document on best practices for using third-party flight plans with our tool, with a plotting chart tool. Yes.
Is that available on your website?
Let me see here. I think let me look at it real quick. The only change that I need to make to it is that no longer have to move it from a user document to a leg document. It automatically opens as a leg document. That's the only hesitation I have. It's sending it out en masse right now because I need to adjust it, because that was a very recent change. The open in ARINCDirect opens it directly as a leg document instead of a user document now. So I need to tweak that, and then I can make it available. Yes.
Martin asks, and again, I think we may have touched on a little bit, how does ARINCDirect cross-reference the approved aircraft position in their app?
Might be referring to the checklist item on. So that was something there's in the origin position report card, there's a cross-checked independently, position report cross-checked independently checkbox. And the guidance we were given was crews can use any number of methods to independently cross-check their position against their FMS. And so that checkbox just is an indication that, yes, I have independently cross-checked it using one of these other methods. We don't provide the actual cross-check. We're just providing you a checklist item that says, yes, I did do an independent cross-check verification on the ground.
Okay. Thank you. Ray asks, did I understand correctly that sharing data requires us to be logged in under separate user names?
Yes, that's a big one. Very, very important that left seat and right seat are logged into their devices, are logged into our app on their devices using their own usernames. Sharing is very dependent on, okay, user A, put this down, user B, put this down. If they're both logged in as user A, it severely breaks our ability to share effectively.
Okay. Thomas asks, where in docs do we find past oceanic plotting charts / master docs?
Okay, so if you're on the documents tab on our website and you look down in the bottom left, there's a past legs section. And in there's a drop down that you can select all the way up to 6 months old. You can, if you have a lot of tails in your account, you can filter by tail, and then you can say, show me all flights within the last 6 months. And then you find the folder that was created for that flight. They're listed by date and recall number. And in there will be the master doc and the high-res image that you closed out.
Thank you, sir. John, more input. Thank you. Our international flight planner enters flight plans directly into AirInc, so all data appears to be available in the app. We can, quote, replan, unquote, to make adjustments to some things like fuel on board, weight and balance, etc. However, we have not been able to generate a flight risk analysis to sync with the iPad app. Is there a way to do this?
So there's a couple of third-party providers out there, ITPS and Flight Pro International, that are actually logging into the ARINCDirect system on behalf of customers to run the flight plans. Like they use our flight planning engine to calculate the flight plan. And in that case, it's considered a native ARINCDirect flight plan. I guess that I missed that when John first asked the question. I seem to recall now that John's company is one of those that uses one of those two companies that will log into our system. There's other third-party providers out there that their back-end billing and other systems are just too tied to their flight planning engine that they are not able to log in and use our flight planning engine in order to calculate the flight plan. And we get that, I mean, their back-end systems are embedded with their flight planning system, makes sense, but there's others out there that their mileage varies on that. So, excuse me. So yeah, I would have to look into the portion about the flight risk analysis. I don't see the question. The question must be under the answered part now.
Yes, I moved it.
So I'm going to need to look into that one and get back to John. I don't know what's going on with the flight risk in the scenario that he's encountering. So sorry that I don't have the answer right now, but I'll do some digging and figure out what's going on there.
Okay, thank you. Eric asks, must two users be logged onto the aircraft Wi-Fi network to share data between ARINCDirect iPad apps?
Very important distinction here is that that paperclip icon works based on the Wi-Fi antennas. That is not to say that they need to be connected to a aircraft Wi-Fi network. The antenna simply needs to be on. So you turn the Wi-Fi antenna on, and that is the sharing takes place between the two Wi-Fi antennas. But just to reiterate, so you turn the Wi-Fi antennas on in order for that to work, but you do not need to be connected to the aircraft Wi-Fi. So you can forget this network, that's how the data shares back and forth.
Okay, thank you. David asks, how do you how do you designate a master iPad when sharing the data between data via a LAN? What happens if someone enters the wrong information? Also, I am assuming that the aircraft does not need to be connected to the internet, WAN, correct?
Yeah, it does not need to be connected to the internet, WAN, but neither one is designated as the master. There's no undo capability, there's redo. So right now, if you're on your closeout waypoint, user A enters the value into altimeter 1 and user B enters another value, a separate value into altimeter 1. The one that hits save or confirm first, or the one who hits confirm second wins. And that's why we don't recommend collaboration on any one individual position report card. Have one pilot do all of the data entry on the coast out, and then the other pilot do all the data entry on 50 West, and so forth and so forth. Don't try and multitask or have multiple people working on the data entry for any one particular position report card. That's when you run into trouble like that. So neither one is designated the master. It's whoever saves it last that wins if there is a data conflict, or if there are two saves that have conflicting data associated with them.
Okay, I've seen several people are posting answers to questions, and that's great. I love the comments. So I'm going to forgo those because we are going, we're losing folks here. So Jeff asks,
but they are great questions.
Yes, great points. Thank you. And Jeff asks, does the live ETP feature work with third-party flight plans?
Yeah, live always works, but you have to, there's a little plus button. You turn on live ETP and there's a little plus. You tap that and you add your ETP airports that your third-party provider provided you with. And it's really simple. You just type in the ICAO.
Okay. Now, some of these are I think I've gone through most of the questions. One person, I think here's another question. If Universal files our flight plans, is it automatically imported into the app route for us?
Yeah. You can go to Universal and confirm this, but just go ask them, hey, are you sending my flight plans to ARINCDirect? And Universal has been sending us third-party plans for probably 15 years. So it's a well-trodden road. They know how to do it. Just, if they're not being sent to us, just call Universal and say, hey, for our tail, blah, 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 can you make sure that the preference to forward plans to ARINC is turned on? It's a configuration in the UV system.
Okay. And then, other folks have been answering, so we appreciate that. As far as getting plotting charts, I don't know. I've not heard that Jet stopped making paper plotting charts. Anybody, Mitch, can you confirm Jet no longer makes paper plotting charts?
I just purchased and have in my possession plotting charts from Jepson on paper 2 weeks ago. So if they did, it would have been within the last 2 weeks. I called them up and had them send them out.
Okay, very good. Thank you. And then these are kind of feedbacks for you, Ben, I think. One is I'd like to see waypoint time, fuel distance information well before reaching coast out. And then someone also writes, is it possible to color the buttons on the left side of the plotting chart? Green for the button that is active, closeout red or amber, triangle is great. Just after 9 to 10 hours in the tube would be helpful.
Yeah, that's, not possible right now, but that's great feedback. And, we are, our UI is in a constant state of updating. We're constantly tweaking it. Kind of take the Amazon model that we don't like to do a waterfall type release and like catch everybody off guard as much as possible. Just little tweaks here and there. And, that's less invasive of a change for most people. So, that's really good stuff. If we can do anything to ease the eyes, we're all for it.
Excellent. And Ben, if you will post your contact info, please. So share your screen, whatever you want to do. Or Mitch, if you have his on a slide, you could post his info.
I'll let him post his final slide. That would be a better way to do it.
All right, Ben, if you'll post your final slide. And then while you're doing that, I'm going to ask this next question. I think this is the last of the questions. Have there been any updates to the Challenger 600 ETP data? Our third-party flight plan provider ETPs do not match the ETPs using ARINCDirect Flight Planner.
I'd have to funnel that question to our flight planning and navigation team that handles the aircraft performance. I'm just too far removed from that aspect of our business to be able to answer that one effectively, unfortunately. Let's see here.
That's understandable.
Let's see here.
And while you're digging that, I'm going to say that the 9170 Charlie is not available yet. It was in comment period. I think that has recently been closed out. So when the FAA posts that, that'll be great. And then the question about, how long are we going to have to plot while in the NAT if they go to ADS-B, we can't answer that. That's going to be impossible to answer. That's going to be up to the FAA folks and that to decide when we're not, we're going to be off the hook for plotting there.
Well, I'd like to add that they do suggest in the minutes of the North Atlantic Systems Planning Group that their intent is that all of the procedural requirements will remain until they have direct controller pilot communication as well as surveillance. So while you have ADS-B out there right now, and it is providing good surveillance in that area, they do not have basically VHF, direct controller pilot communication. And until they have that, that will be the point at which they'll reevaluate it. And we have seen that discussed at the highest levels. And
thank you, Mitch. That's excellent input. And
my contact is up there. It should be.
Yep, we see it. Thank you. Benjamin.lynn@collins.com.
I want to thank everybody for participating and the wonderful questions that you ask. Thank you for working with us as we are still in the process of transitioning to this new Zoom platform. We're going to work on getting a little slicker presentation as time goes by. We even take advice on that. So if you have advice on that, then we'd love to take it.
All right. Well, thanks everyone. Most all the stuff that's remaining are just comments to other questions that are already asked. So we do appreciate all your input. And again, thank you guys for joining us for this. It will be available on our YouTube channel once we've done our post editing.
Thank you. And thank you, Ben.
Thank you, Ben.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Ben, Joshua,
No,
both of you.
Thank you so much for the platform, and thank you for the great questions, everyone. And it's something that when I talk to a lot of the crew members, their excitement about the feature kind of just comes through the phone, and it's great to hear, and it's fun project to be working on. So thank you.
Yeah, that's understandable.
All right. Well,
Thank
thanks
you.
everyone. You guys enjoy the rest of your day.
So long.